Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we are completely demystifying the world of data protection and security. Now, if you typically think of cybersecurity as just a bunch of abstract IT problems, I want you to shift your perspective for a minute. We're going to frame this as a layered castle defense system that safeguards our everyday digital lives. It's a comprehensive 25-point framework, and we're going to break the whole thing down. Here is our roadmap for the journey. We'll be moving through 5 distinct parts: the foundation, the blueprint, the vaults, the patrols, and finally, the law of the land. Let's just jump right in. Part 1, the foundation. We're talking about the unbreakable CIA triad. Okay, let's dive into this. The C stands for confidentiality. It's exactly what it sounds like. Making sure your sensitive data is only accessed by the people or systems who are actually supposed to see it. Out of the whole triad, this is the one attackers go after the most. Why? Well, because they want your data. If confidentiality fails, you've got a data leak on your hands. Next up is the I for integrity. This is your guarantee that your data is accurate, complete, and hasn't been messed with, unless an authorized process changed it. Think about it like this. If you download a file and its cryptographic hash doesn't match the official one, well, integrity's broken. That means somebody tampered with it. Maybe a man-in-the-middle attack happened, or the data just got corrupted along the way. And the A is availability. This just means your systems and data are actually there when authorized users need them. Here is the absolutely crucial point. If your system goes down because of a DDoS attack or a ransomware lockout, it's not just some annoying IT hiccup where you can't check your email. No, it is a fundamental security failure. If you can't get to your data, your defense has completely failed. Moving right along to part 2, the blueprint. These are the rules of data protection. Before you can actually build up your walls, you have to know what you're protecting inside. And that means practicing data minimization, basically only keeping what you strictly need so you shrink the blast radius if a breach does happen. We group this data into tiers: public, internal, confidential, and restricted. That restricted tier, that's the stuff that holds your encryption keys and highly sensitive personal data. It needs maximum lockdown. Knowing exactly what you have and what tier it belongs to literally drives every single protection decision you make from here on out. Now, part of this blueprint is figuring out how to mask data. And there's a massive difference between permanently erasing someone's identity versus just putting a mask on it. Anonymization, that permanently wipes all identifying info. It's totally irreversible, which means it actually falls completely outside the scope of the GDPR. Pseudonymization, though, just swaps out identifying details with codes. It is reversible if you have the key, so it stays firmly under GDPR regulation. Okay, let's get into the fun stuff. Part 3, the vault. Time to lock down those technical controls. So there are 3 states of encryption. To stay safe, data needs to be turned into unreadable ciphertext at all times, at rest on your hard drives, in transit while it's moving across networks, and in use when it's actively being processed in memory. But here's the catch. Encryption is only as strong as your key management. Cryptographic keys are literally like the physical keys to a bank vault. If you just leave them under the doormat by hard-coding them or storing them right next to the data, well, your entire protection is pretty much useless. Which brings us to a really critical vulnerability. What happens when a password just isn't enough? Because, let's be real, overprivileged accounts and access based only on a password are some of the biggest entry points for modern breaches. Depending on just one single line of defense, you're kind of asking for trouble. The answer to that is multi-factor authentication, or MFA. You've got to prove who you are using multiple factors. It's a mix of something you know, like a password, something you have, like a token or an authenticator app, and something you are, like a fingerprint. I honestly cannot emphasize this enough. MFA is the single most effective control you can put in place. Even if someone steals your password, MFA stops the attacker right in their tracks. While we're talking about the vault, I need to give you a quick but super urgent warning about cryptographic hashing. Hashes are great for verifying data integrity, right? A tiny change in the file should produce a totally different output hash. But please never ever use MD5 or SHA-1 for security. Both of them are mathematically and cryptographically broken. Seriously, a modern computer can crack an MD5 hash in a matter of seconds. Using them is like slapping a cheap, rusted lock on your brand new high-tech vault. All right, moving to part 4, the patrols. It's all about staying operationally vigilant. Look, a castle is totally useless if the guards are asleep. Security isn't some magical box you just set up and forget about. It takes constant operational upkeep, and a huge part of that is the 3-2-1 rule. This is the absolute gold standard for backup and recovery. It means you keep 3 copies of your data on 2 different media types with 1 copy stored securely off-site or in the cloud. And you have to test them. Testing those backups regularly is your ultimate defense against ransomware. Because honestly, an untested backup is essentially no backup at all. Another big part of these patrols is the vulnerability management cycle. It's a continuous loop. We discover, assess, prioritize, remediate, and verify weaknesses. And a massive piece of this is what we call security by design or shifting left. It is a proven fact that fixing a foundational design flaw early on costs roughly 10 times less than scrambling in a panic to fix an exploited vulnerability in a live running environment.
Finally, we arrive at part 5, the law of the land, privacy, law, and you.
So, under legal frameworks like the GDPR or India's DPDP Act, organizations aren't just hoarding data in a vacuum. Remember, this is your data, and you have legally enforceable rights over it. You have the right to access it, rectify mistakes, erase it completely, that's the famous right to be forgotten, and even object to how it's being used. Organizations have to establish a strict legal basis before they can even think about touching your information. But what happens if the castle walls actually get breached? Well, it sets off an incredibly high-pressure timeline. Once an organization realizes they'd been breached, they have a really tight 72-hour window under the GDPR to notify the supervisory authority. Plus, they have to let the affected individuals know without undue delay. This is exactly why having a proactive, pre-drafted incident response plan is absolutely vital. You definitely don't want to be figuring out your strategy while a 72-hour countdown clock is ticking in the background. And that leads us to a really crucial point. Data protection obligations do not end at your organization's boundary. When you hand over data to a third-party cloud provider or an external vendor, your responsibility goes right along with it. We saw this play out with those massive SolarWinds and MOVEit breaches. Those were supply chain attacks that compromised thousands of organizations all through a single trusted vendor. So that leaves us with one final, pretty vital question to think about. Your data is really only as secure as the weakest link in your supply chain. You've built up the foundation, you've classified your blueprint, locked down the vault, and set up your patrols. But who else is holding your keys? I really hope this look into layered defense leaves you eager to examine your own digital footprint. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay secure out there.